Hopefully everybody has had a lovely week. It is Friday, TGIF edition of the show. Number one show, hottest show on the streets here, talking your Crimson Tide football. In my own words, yours truly, Stephen M. Smith, Touchdown Alabama Magazine, bringing you the show from the magic city of Birmingham, streaming this to you on YouTube. Speaking of the channel, go ahead right now. If you haven't done so, smash subscribe right now. Hit that subscribe button so you can get all that you crave on Bama. Also, don't forget, drop us that thumbs up. Give us a like on the show. Run those likes up. Make this your show, your network, your channel, your platform, your space to talk Bama. Also, turn all of those notifications on. Hit that little bell so that way you don't miss a beat when it comes to your favorite program, that being Bama football. We also got you covered on Facebook and Twitter as well, streaming to you the show. Got a good show tonight. Going to be joined a little bit later by my man Brad Edwards, former ESPN analyst, but author of Dynasty by the Numbers, breaking down the Bama dynasty under head coach Nick Saban. And want to hear from you, the Tide fans, tonight. Blow the phone lines up with your calls and your conversations. You can do this by calling 205-448-1358. Number to call in, 205-448-1358. And one more time, 205-448-1358. Want to hear from you. The daily super chat goes $75. Daily super chat go. Appreciate all of you for what you guys do in making this your show. And gotta shout out my man John Ivory in the production studio behind the scenes, doing his thing as he always does. But we get into now topic number one of the conversation. And John, this one was pretty interesting. So Coach Saban last month was at the Alabama Football Coaches Association clinic, and he's talking to coaches, he's talking to people, he's sharing nuggets and tools and information of wisdom. Coach Saban touched on a lot of things. I mean, he spoke on leadership. He spoke on the Henry Ruggs situation, a very tragic one that being. He spoke on the NCAA transfer portal and NIL and how that has affected high school recruiting. He spoke on many things, but in the middle of the conversation, he opened up about how Alabama lost in the national championship game to Georgia. Nick Saban doesn't open up about a lot that when it comes down to that his particular teams or that particular team at that moment, but he decided to take us behind the curtain, if you will, and show this is what caused this past team, the 2021 team, to not finish the job against Georgia in winning the national championship, or not win the titles, I should say. So what Coach Saban mentioned, he discussed, Alabama being down two cornerbacks, Josh Jobe and Jalen Armour-Davis, due to injury, and he touched on not having the best backup corner as Marcus Banks, the transfer portal. But when it got down to the wide receivers, he mentioned there were three wide receivers, and he didn't state any names, three wide receivers that did not buy in fully to the Saban process. Three wide receivers that did not take the practice reps seriously. Three wide receivers that did not take their roles seriously. Three wide receivers that just did not do all that were expected of them. So when the moment came in the national championship where you had Jamison Williams go down, when the moment came in the postseason where John Mechie went down, these particular young receivers were not ready for the moment. And the three guys he was referring to, according to close sources I have spoken with within the program, those three would be Trayshawn Holden, J.I. Hall, and, of course, Javon Baker. Now, one of the three, we all kind of had an idea where Hall is concerned, and then you got Trayshawn Holden and Javon Baker. And what's interesting here is, all three were heavy on social media this past season. Not saying there's anything wrong with social media. It can be used as a good tool, but all three were heavy on social media, on Twitter, just talking about y'all gonna feel me, y'all gonna feel me, y'all gonna feel me, y'all gonna know where I'm coming from. This is my season, and all of the talking that was done on Twitter by these three, but when the moment came, not ready for it because you were not preparing yourself in practice. You were not preparing yourself in drills. You were not preparing yourself in that moment to where when you get to the big game, it doesn't overwhelm you. It doesn't take you over. It doesn't startle you or shock you. Why? Because you would be prepared. And those guys were not prepared. And a lot of talking on social media. Hall in particular was dropping a lot of those cryptic tweets. I remember at one point, I think it was against Mississippi State, where he said, I think I'm going to call it quits, and later would delete that tweet, and it had that happen right there, and just all over Twitter, just dropping cryptic tweets left and right, and we had to kind of do NYPD Blue, so to speak, go in, dissect, and discover what is Hall trying to say with his message here on social media. And Javon Baker, kind of the same thing all over social media with his tweets, just due to they felt like we're not getting enough playing time, we're not seeing the field, we're not getting passes thrown our way. But even with all of that, you still have to be prepared for when that moment comes. Coach Saban always talks about it. Even when you're not getting the ball, even when you're not on the field, you find a way to be engaged. You find a way to be locked into the team, locked into whatever's happening, on the field. And those three, when the big moment came, because they were not prepared, that's where you saw drops, where balls hit them dead in their hand. J.I. Hall drops in the national championship game, ball him dead in his hand. Javon Baker dropped the pass in the Cotton Bowl against Cincinnati, ball hit him dead in his hand. So that's why you saw the drops. Trayshawn Holden, national championship game, couldn't get enough of that separation, couldn't get to that spot in the back of the end zone against Georgia. Bryce Young put it right there. Holden didn't get to it fast enough, and that was a touchdown situation that could have happened if these guys prepared, locked in, focused on the field. And for Javon Baker, of course, now he's at Kentucky, so him with the Wildcats. He takes all the messages he's learned. He takes all the training, the techniques, the tutelage he's gotten to the Wildcats. So he's in a completely different program in the SEC. But when it comes down to Hall and Holden, where do they go to from here, right? Because when Coach Saban says this, and even though he didn't state any names, you can kind of read between the lines, but where do these two go to, in particular Hall, where do these two go to from here? How do they take this moment of growth and learning and being critiqued and all of this? How do they take this and apply this to this upcoming spring? Because this spring, it's going to be about who has that chemistry, right? Who has formed that connection, that continuity, that camaraderie with Bryce Young, who's returning off a Heisman Trophy season. Who can have that chemistry? Who can have that oneness with Bryce Young from the quarterback perspective? Can Hall put it all together and be the guy to have that oneness with Young? We'll see. Can Holden put it together, be that guy to have that oneness with Young? We will see. But I thought it was very interesting how Coach Saban took us behind the curtain and showed and displayed and talked about, this is why the team came up short. This is why we came up short here in a national championship game. Yes, injuries. Yes, unfortunate bounces, unfortunate situations. But we had some guys that were not all the way bought in. We had some guys that did not take the practice, that did not take the preparation, that did not take the journey and opportunities to get to this point seriously. And when they were thrusted into the big moments of the season, were not ready due to not being prepared in taking those moments seriously. So for Coach Saban, we see here the reason why he likes to say, you do the little things right. You do the small things right. You take care of every single finite detail, because at some point you're going to get into a game. At some point you're going to be thrown into a matchup. And if you're not taking these finite details seriously, it's going to come back to bite you. And it came back to bite all three of these guys. Baker off to Kentucky. We will see what Holden and Hall do in improving from all of this. We take our first break here on the show. Don't touch that dial. We're just getting started. Upon our return, we go to the phone lines to grab your calls, your tweets, your chats, your conversations. We get to a dialogue with you, the fans, on a Friday, right after this.
You're watching In My Own Words with Stephen M. Smith, brought to you by We Own the Fourth Quarter. Get your four-finger bling necklace today by visiting weownthefourthquarter.com. Throw them foes up.
What's up, Bama Nation? This is Rudy Griffin, former Alabama defensive lineman, and you're listening to my guy, Stephen M. Smith, In My Own Words, brought to you by Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Roll Tide, roll!
9 players have teamed up and released the Alabama Team Paper, which is a video yearbook they've put out for sale direct to fans. Now, for the first time, small dollar purchases from the fans can support the players as a group as well as a great cause, because $1 of every subscription payment is donated to the Boys and Girls Club of America. Be a 5-star fan base and support your team and a great cause with Team Paper. Check it out at teampaper.com/Alabama.
Remember the taste of Grandma's delicious sweets? Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes brings back those precious memories with just one bite. Each cake made from scratch. They make the perfect dessert to share with family and friends for any occasion, and ordering is easy. Visit emily'sheirloompoundcakes.com. Click the online store and shop. Then pick up your fresh cake at the kitchen in downtown Homewood. Order yours online at emily'sheirloompoundcakes.com. Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes, making memories from scratch.
Thank you for tuning in. Show your support right now by clicking that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button now and enable all notifications to make sure you don't ever miss any of the best Alabama football news, notes, and information right here on Touchdown Alabama.
And we are back into the action, folks, on a Friday. Hottest show on the streets here, bringing your Crimson Tide football news, notes, and information. In my own words, yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Happy to see all of you guys checking us out here on this evening. Guys, shout out my man Jimmy Badman Clay with that $26 donation in the Super Chats. Appreciate the love there from my man Jimmy Clay. As always, that daily Super Chat goal, $75 daily Super Chat go. How about Alabama baseball and softball right now getting it done? Baseball, walk-off homer to beat Xavier, and then Bama softball, I mean, the girls getting it done, whether it's taking care of Virginia Tech or whomever the girls are playing. I mean, these girls, Montana Fouts and these girls, Patrick Murphy is starting to, I'm starting to feel like Murphy wasn't joking when he said this team, the most talented group of girls he's ever had since he's been in Tuscaloosa. I mean, so far, Abby Dorr is hitting, and Megan Bloodworth is hitting, and Bailey Dowling is hitting. I mean, these girls are hitting the cover off the baseball. So the bats can continue to keep this momentum going, to keep this trend moving forward. I'm really excited. And we had a question in the chat line about the weak side, the wheel linebacker position. Who takes over that spot? Right now, I have Jalen Moody right there, penciled in as the starter in the spring. Moody, a lot of experience, a lot of game action on the field in his career. But it comes down to, can Moody hold that spot? Because there's a lot of young guys gunning for that. When you look at Deontay Lawson, Demoy Kennedy, Kendrick Blackshire, Ian Jackson, even the freshman Sean Murphy, there's going to be quite a few linebackers gunning for that weak side linebacker spot. Now, Jalen Moody for now, because of his experience and his leadership and how long he's been in this defensive system, I would have him penciled in as the starter for this spring. But can he carry it all the way out is the question, because I go back to last spring, Moody played well in the A-Day game at middle linebacker, and a lot of us thought, Moody would be the starter at that position with Christian Harris at weak side linebacker. Unfortunately, it did not come to fruition that way. Bama goes in the portal, pulls out Henry To'o. Henry T was the middle linebacker. Christian Harris was the weak side linebacker, and Jalen Moody was coming in off the bench. So hopefully this time around, Moody can take full advantage of a chance to start at that weak side backup position. He did record an interception last season. Question being here, social media bad for freshmen? I wouldn't say it's bad for freshmen. I would just say have the focus more so on the game, right? Once you get on campus, once you get to the program, there's something about put your head down and get to work. I'm not saying social media is a bad thing. Social media can be used as a really good tool. But once you get to Bama, it's about put your head down and get to work. If you're trying to be the best at your craft, if you're trying to be elite at your craft, and especially if you're trying to prove to the coaching staff that you are a leader at your craft, then you got to put your head down and get to work. It's something about that workman, blue collar, hard hat, do your job mentality that Nick Saban just gravitates to, that this coaching staff just gravitates to. Not saying that they don't value social media, not saying that they don't appreciate social media, but they really love, value, enjoy, and respect those guys that put that head down once you get to Bama, because everybody's a dog, everybody's an athlete when you come to the Crimson Tide. It's which one is ready to do that work and go all in doing that work. But we take a call right here. You're live on the show. What's going on? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
Hey, this is Jason from Panama.
How we feeling, man?
Doing all right. I had a comment about what you're referring to with coach's critique about the raw receivers. I kind of agree with him. I was really disappointed that even after Metchien, Williams went down, we just couldn't seem to get consistency going. So hopefully this lights the fire in them. Really looking forward to seeing what a lot of these guys are going to do in the next season. Kind of want to get some more thoughts on that. Appreciate your show, man.
Absolutely, no problem. And I mean, Coach Saban is calculated. He's always been calculated. So when it was just interesting how he took you behind the curtain to unveil what was the cause of Alabama coming up short there in that game against Georgia. And I feel like, Holden and Hall will learn from this. They will take from this. But I also feel like, guys like Christian Leary will grow. JoJo Earl will grow. You look at some young guys that are in here now with Isaiah Bond and Aaron Anderson and Kobe Prentice and Shaz Preston. How many of them can get on the field as freshmen and make some things shake, make some things happen? You look at Thiu Jones-Bell is here, is still here. Is it finally his time to maybe do something? Jermaine Burton is in here from the transfer portal. So I think this group of receivers, they understand how when we were not able to create that separation there against Georgia, went a long way into that loss there at Lucas Oil Stadium. So this spring, going to be a big spring for these receivers. We grab this call here. You're live on the show. What's going on? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
Tide man, checking in from Jackson, Mississippi. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, Todd, man. How we feeling, man?
I'm feeling okay. A little bit irritated. Going to get something off my chest here in a second. But let me ask you about Ja'Cory Brooks. He's coming back, right?
He is. He's back.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think he might be? I mean, the way he played and the way talking about players stepping up in that Iron Bowl, I'm telling you what, he might be the marquee receiver next year, possibly. Do you think?
He's good, and Bryce Young really likes him. Young always talks about Ja'Cory Brooks, C7, 7 precise routes, 7 defined routes, 7 he knows how to practice well, how to practice hard. And Coach Saban has raved on Ja'Cory Brooks out there practicing hard and doing what he's supposed to do. So he could be.
Yeah, that's great news. I'm looking forward to that. And what I wanted to ask you and get off my chest here, why is Coach Saban the only coach in history that is not allowed to analyze why his team lost? I mean, any other coach after a loss, when the reporters ask him to analyze why they lost, they'll give reasons and explanations and insights into what they think happened, and that's fine. Nick Saban does it, and he's crying. Nick Saban's making excuses. I had to hear it on Feinbaum today, all the Bama haters. Nick Saban, nobody feels sorry for Bama. They recruit all these 5-star guys, and what people don't understand, what people do not understand is that coaching is not just about recruiting a bunch of 5-stars and rolling them out there on the field. It's about developing talent, developing and molding character. And Nick Saban was absolutely right. And yes, certainly everything he says is calculated, but I want to go beyond that. I think even more importantly, Nick Saban is a man of character, and he has certain principles. And he is willing to lose a 5-star player or a recruit, or even lose credibility in the eyes of the media in order to stand up for what he believes is right. Just like what he said about Henry Ruggs III, which I think was extremely important. We are living in a world where people do not want to step up and be leaders, and even amongst our peers, people do not want to say, "Hey, man, I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you go down that path," and be willing to be ridiculed, be willing to be an outcast, or be made fun of, or whatever, but do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And then that's what Nick Saban says: do the right thing, not because of what it's going to get you. Yeah, good things will happen when you do the right thing, but how about just do the right thing because it's the right thing to do? I've heard Nick Saban say that on multiple occasions. And I think that was a very important message that he was sending. And I think it applies to, he wasn't throwing anybody under the bus. He wasn't throwing these kids under the bus. He was sending a message to them and to the team and everybody else. Look, if you want to play and you want to be successful, you got to do things the right way from spring practice all the way until the end of January. You've got to do the little things. The little things are the big things. And I think that's what people don't understand about Nick Saban, and it frustrates me because he's the only coach that's not allowed to analyze and assess why his team lost. Because anytime he does that, people say he's making excuses, he's crying, he's whining. And I'm daggum sick of it, brother. I'm sick and tired of hearing these people, say that about Nick Saban. Nick Saban ain't crying about nothing. He ain't crying, he ain't whining, never cried or whined a day in his life, which is why he's won 7 national championships and why he's got a few more in store for him ahead. But anyway, I just had to get that off my chest, brother. Keep on doing what you're doing. Roll Tide. Talk to you soon, man.
Appreciate Todd, man, for checking in right there. People hold Nick Saban to a different standard than everybody else, and that's why I feel like everybody else can analyze and talk about why we lost the game, or this is why the game was lost, but Nick Saban is held to just such a different standard, and not just in college football, but in all football. And everything that he says can not only be applied to the game, but can be applied to life in general. And I have no issues with what Coach Saban said. There's a standard in Tuscaloosa, and that standard is you excel in the little things, you excel in the small things, you pay attention to every detail, you work your butt off. Like I said, you put your head down regardless of what classification or star rating you have when you come out of high school. And when you do those things, you get rewarded for those things. So that's the big thing when it comes down to Coach Saban is he's about quality, he's about character, and he's about everything. Every detail matters to Alabama because to Nick Saban, because every detail matters to this program. Gotta shout out my man George Stokes with that $9.99 in the Super Chats. Appreciate George Stokes there, showing us the love here in the chat, in the Super Chats there. George Stokes, appreciate him. But going back to my thought there on that linebacker position there, Jalen Moody would be my guy penciled in as the starter at weak side linebacker, but keep your eyes on a couple of young guys that could show up and do something, whether that may be a Deontay Lawson, whether that be a Demoy Kennedy, a Kendrick Blackshire, a Sean Murphy. Could be a lot of guys. It could be one of these guys that could show up here, make some big plays, and do something incredible here for the Crimson Tide. But we're going to go to a quick topic right now, and this one goes to Bryce Young, Alabama quarterback Bryce Young, who was presented the Manning Award on Wednesday from the All-State Sugar Bowl Committee. The Manning Award that's been presented since 2004 in honor of the Manning family and their accomplishments. Archie Manning, Peyton, and Eli Manning. Since 2004, 2 Alabama quarterbacks have won the honor. That would be Mac Jones from the 2020 season and Bryce Young from last year. So Bryce was presented with the Manning Award on Wednesday. Kudos to him. Looking forward to seeing what he does in his second year as a starter for the Crimson Tide beginning this spring and into the coming fall. But we take a break right now, folks, from the show. Don't touch that dial. We get back. We sit down with my man, Brad Edwards, former ESPN analyst and author of the book Dynasty by the Numbers, breaking down the Crimson Tide's run of championships under Coach Saban. We get to Edwards after this.
You know what we do at the start of the fourth quarter. We throw them foes up. But now you don't have to wait until the fourth quarter. Get your 4-finger bling necklace at weownthefourthquarter.com. It's the first and only logo that captures the essence of all Crimson Tide players and fans as we represent the legendary Alabama football fourth quarter dominance. Get your 4-finger bling necklace right now at weownthefourthquarter.com. Get yours today and stun on them haters.
Look at all these great players in Touchdown Alabama magazine. Man, wait till I turn up this year. I'm gonna be on the front cover. But what if Will goes off? Or Joe, DeMarco, Chris, Tim, Christian.
Don't wait. Order now at touchdownalabama.com or call 833-483-2624 today.
Christian.
We are back into the action here, folks, from the break of a number one forum for Bama football news. In my own words, yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama magazine. Happy to have all of you guys checking us out, joining us here on today. And right now, we go to the In My Own Words hotline where we pick up the man of the hour, my man Brad Edwards, former ESPN analyst but author of the book Dynasty by the Numbers, breaking down the Crimson Tide's run of national championships. The hot man is in the building. Brad, what's going on, brother?
How you doing, Steven? I'm doing pretty well up here.
Doing outstanding, Brad. Happy to have you in here. Brad Edwards joining us right now on the show. And Brad, kind of to start things off here, national championship game. It didn't quite end, or it didn't end the way Alabama envisioned it, taking the loss there to Georgia and Kirby Smart. Bulldogs getting the 33-18 win at Lucas Oil Stadium. And a lot of times, coming off a loss, you get angry, motivated, just really angry, motivated Nick Saban. He goes on a strand of, getting new coaches on staff and putting new ideas in place and implementing new things in place, trying to get back to winning a championship. But when you look at the fourth quarter program, how intense do you see this offseason program being, especially with Saban wanting to get back to get that 7th title at Alabama and 8th overall?
Yeah, look, these are the types of seasons that I think he really enjoys, at least I should say off seasons that he really enjoys, because he doesn't have to motivate his guys. Getting that close, having a lead in the fourth quarter of the national championship game and not sealing the deal, that's all the motivation that anybody needs. So he doesn't have to manufacture it. I talked to him about this. I think it was coming off the 2016 season, the loss to Clemson on basically the last play of the game. And he's one of those that, he said, you don't have to say anything, and this is where you find out, who the leaders are, because they're the ones that are going to take control. But everybody, whether they're a leader or not, they are pretty much in unison. I don't want to feel that again. And so look, there's so many things that they have to improve on, which is really unusual for a team that came as close to winning a national title as they did. But it's the truth. There's a lot that they can do to get better, and fortunately, they got a whole lot of guys coming back who can have an opportunity to improve on what they did last year.
Absolutely. If you're just tuning into the show here on a Friday, we got my man Brad Edwards, former ESPN analyst, but the author of the book Dynasty by the Numbers, breaking down the Crimson Tide's run of national championships under Coach Saban. And Brad, going now to Bill O'Brien, I mean, the way his NFL tenure ended with the Houston Texans wasn't the way he wanted it to be. He gets the call from Coach Saban, comes to Alabama, and despite coming back to college football and having some bumps in the road, he got Alabama, or he helped Alabama to SEC championship, national championship. If not for some drop balls in the game against Georgia, O'Brien could have a national championship ring here on his finger. But he's back for his second season. What would you like to see him improve or implement some things offensively from a creative standpoint?
Yeah, that's such a tough question to answer because we have no idea what he wanted to do but wasn't able to do because of the deficiencies in the offensive line. It's so easy to forget how important that part of the game is. And I know they weren't terrible. They just weren't, they weren't great by Alabama standards. And that's a big deal because when you're trying to, construct any type of plan offensively, it kind of starts with running backs having room to run, quarterbacks having time to throw. And if you don't have great confidence that those things are going to be done consistently, then there's probably a lot of your playbook that's taken away. And so, look, I don't know that I could sit there and point to one thing. I know that, during the season, a lot was made out of the goal to go and obviously against A&M and the loss, that was a big part of the story. And clearly it was again in the second loss against Georgia in the national championship game. The team would get down inside the 10-yard line, especially inside the 5, and either couldn't run or just didn't try to run. But I think a lot of that was because of a lack of confidence that they could, especially against Georgia. So I think it starts with the offensive line, and I think until they're better in that area, as much as we want to critique, I think it really is difficult to critique the job that Bill O'Brien's doing, and especially in the play calling department, because if you don't have confidence in those guys up front, then you are somewhat limited in what you're going to try. You're not going to try to do something that you know has a high chance of failing. And so I think that's really where it begins, is how much better is the offensive line going to be, and from that standpoint, we'll see how much different the play calling might be.
We got Brad Edwards on the phone line, people, former ESPN analyst, but the author of the book Dynasty by the Numbers, breaking down the Crimson Tide's run of national championships under Coach Saban here on In My Own Words on a Friday. And Brad, so as we look now toward the spring, A-Day game is set up for Saturday, April 16th at Bryant-Denny. And as much as we enjoy the players coming back, for some odd, crazy reason, our eyes also look to, who could be that freshman that grabs attention and gets on the field and possibly becomes a highlight name in the coming fall during the college football season. When you look at this coming spring game, Brad, is there any particular freshman that you have on your radar that you're going, if I get into Bryant-Denny, this is the guy I want to see?
Yeah, I wouldn't name a particular name, but as far as a position group, I would point to the receivers. I don't have any major questions on the defensive side. I think, certainly there'll be some new guys who are talented and they can contribute, but with what they have coming back, they should be very good defensively. So the question is really offense. And I just mentioned offensive line. Sure, there are going to be some players there that have to step up, especially, who's going to be the left tackle and what are we going to get there? And then, of course, right tackle becomes a question mark as well. And those are really important. But ultimately, when you look at what they lost at receiver, and I mean, basically the three guys who were out there almost every play all season long, and until a couple of them got injured, they're all gone. So it's going to be a whole new group of guys that are, out there catching passes and who can step up. I think about, and this kind of ties into the news of the day, right? With the Saban kind of making this I was going to say veiled reference. It wasn't really a veiled reference. He just didn't name names with the guys who didn't step up in the national championship game. But I think it's all connected here, because you go back to, we how many true freshmen have we seen come in the Saban era and have a really good season, at receiver? I mean, you had Julio, you had Amari, Ridley, and then even though that trio in that 2017 class with Smith and Judy and Ruggs, even though they didn't play a ton before the second half of the national championship game, they were at least in the rotation consistently throughout the year and made a few big plays here and there. But we didn't get that out of any of the young guys last year. And outside of, Trayshawn Holden, who was out there every now and then, and Ja'Cory Brooks, who was kind of forced in toward the end. I mean, I don't know that we know anything about these guys, even the guys who are coming back. And so I think that's what makes that the most fascinating position group as we go into the spring.
He is Brad Edwards, ladies and gentlemen, laying it down right here. Former ESPN analyst, author of the book Dynasty by the Numbers, breaking down the Crimson Tide's run of national championships under Coach Saban. Joining us here to talk Alabama football on a Friday in the off-season in February. Brad, as always, my man, we appreciate you coming on, taking some time to spend with us. You take care of yourself, stay safe, be good, man.
Thank you, Stephen. Have a great weekend.
Always enjoy Brad Edwards coming on. Great points by him. It does start with the offensive line, and that's one of the reasons why I said maybe this is more so Marrone than O'Brien. That's why Marrone gone. Eric Wolford in here to coach the O-line. Should see a lot of improvement there. And like Brad mentioned at wide receiver, you got guys coming back, but this is a group where you have to figure out who can have that chemistry, that connection, that camaraderie with quarterback Bryce Young back for his second season as a starter, third season overall. But we go to a break right now, folks. On Touch That Down. Upon our return, we get back to the phone lines to grab your calls, your thoughts, your interactions after this.
Don't touch that dial. Call in right now as we're taking your calls up next on In My Own Words with Stephen M. Smith. Brought to you by We Own the Fourth Quarter. Visit weownthefourthquarter.com now to get your four-finger bling necklace.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Marvin Constant, All-SEC linebacker and 1999 SEC champion. You are listening to In My Own Words, brought to you by Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Roll Tide.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care in support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide. Thank you for tuning in. Show your support right now by clicking that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button now and enable all notifications to make sure you don't ever miss any of the best Alabama football news, notes, and information right here on Touchdown Alabama.
We are back into the action here, folks, from the break. Number one form and ticket here for your Crimson Tide football news. In my own words, yours truly, Stephen M. Smith, Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Appreciate you guys checking us out today. And we go to the phone lines to take your calls. The call statement is brought to you by the Blue Wrench Gang, 205-448-1358. Number to call in, 205-448-1358. We grab this call here. You're live on the show. What's going on? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
Mr. Stephen M. Smith. It's your boy, Coach Smoot, man. What's going on, brother?
Doing good, man. Doing good, my man. Enjoying this Friday. Good Friday. Getting some good calls, some good conversations in here. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good, man. Glad to be back, man. Suffered a few losses in the family the past few weeks, so we've been taking it kind of hard over here, but we're gonna be better, man. And I really been just tuning in to the show, after trying to stay busy, man. But I love Alabama football, man, and I kind of just wanted to piggyback off of what the analyst just said on a previous call. One point he made that I have been making the whole season, Steven, especially on the defensive side, was not necessarily our coaching scheme, how our schemes that we were running or the play calling. My biggest gripe from the second to the last week of the season was, why aren't we going deeper into our rotation at areas that are not solid or solidified? We had struggles at the inside linebacker position early in the season, and that was a big thorn in our flesh throughout the whole season. It tightened up towards the end of the season, but for the most part, we struggled there. Wide receiver, as legit as we were at wide receiver, we had so much young talent that should have had, 6 to 7 reps a game. When you got Metchie out there running, half stepping on routes because he's burnt out, or Jaleel Billingsley dropping passes in sets where he's at the split. You could easily slide one of your big receivers, Javon Baker, Dai'i Hall, guys that could fill that big slot, that split position. You just gotta be, you have to use everything in the toolbox, is what I'm saying. And that was one of my biggest gripes. And it did catch up with us in the biggest moment of the season, which was the national championship. And that doesn't take anything away from the skills of the wide receivers, the young wide receivers that are there. It just goes to show you that game reps do matter. Game reps matter. Whether it's like Jalen Moody, like why is he not getting 12 to 16 snaps a game? Why is he only getting 4 to 6 snaps a game? Like that's not. You got a guy that fills gaps, that is relentless with filling the holes on the run game, and we struggled inside. Defensive line, at the defensive front. Why is Tim Smith not getting more reps? Why is he – I mean, DJ Dell might be a good starter, but let that guy get some Jaleel Burrows. All those guys was inside, man. We had too much meat sitting on the sideline this year, and hopefully that's one thing that we get back to. I remember early Saban era. One of my good friends that I grew up with, DeQuan Menzie, when he came over from JUCO to Bama, he was projected. He would tell us, he was like, "Man, I'm 5th on the depth chart right now," And but first game of the season, I seen DeQuan on nickel package one time. I seen him in dime package 3 times, and this was his first year coming from JUCO. He wasn't this wasn't like the early transfer era. This was like this wasn't the new transfer era. This was old school. So he came in and had to sit and everything. So even with that experience and all that under the plate, he still got those reps, and it paid off because he ended up having to be the starter nickel corner. And they won the national championship, one of the best national championship defenses you will ever see come through Alabama. So it's just I hope we get back to it, Steven. I hope we get back to just being physical. I'm glad we got a new offensive line coach. I'm glad we got a fresh group of guys that have to prove themselves. I feel like that's when Alabama produces the best product, when there isn't anything established. There isn't, all right, this is the set offensive line. This is the set wide receiver core. When guys have to work to become relevant, I feel like that's when we put our best product on the field, and that's when we have the most successful seasons, because guys are hungry throughout the whole season. Nobody's feeling like they're obligated or they're privy to anything because of something they did previously. So if we embrace that dog mindset again, I think we'll be straight, Steve. I think we'll be good. So I appreciate y'all taking my call, man. And Roll Tide and say it feels good to be back, man. And you guys keep doing what you're doing at TVA, man. I love it.
Appreciate Senator Hines for checking in here on a Friday. And I'm going to say this in defense of the young players, even though Coach Saban made his comments, and I understand and respect what he said. I will say this in defense of the players. So when you're not getting the reps or burn on the field in games, because if you think about it, there were moments against Mercer, and for a lot of you as fans, it was, why aren't these young guys getting more burn? Where the young guys at? Especially at receiver. Where the young receivers at? If I had $1 for every conversation on this show last season that started off with where the young receivers at, I would be a billionaire by now. There was so many conversations about that. And you go back to the Mercer game, the guys didn't get much burn. Southern Miss, guys didn't get much burn. New Mexico State, guys didn't get much burn. You took down Mississippi State 49-9, guys didn't get much burn. Tennessee, guys didn't get much burn. And those were all matchups where Alabama had control of those games for the most part. And when you're not getting that action in these games where you are blowing teams out, and then you're thrown out there in the biggest game of the year, and they're like, go out there and go get it. It's kind of hard to go out there and go get it when you have not been on the field getting those reps consistently. It's kind of hard to go out there and go get it because you're not synced in because you haven't seen much burn there on the field. But once again, and that's just me. Coach Saban made his point. No, respect that, but that's just me on the point there on my end. Appreciate that call there from Senator Hines, 205-448-1358, number to call in. If you have a thought or a question, 205-448-1358, the number right there. We go to this topic right here, and this is on freshman linebacker Sean Murphy, the 5-star from Virginia, 6'2", 215 pounds. Now, the legendary Dick Butkus said Sean Murphy reminds him he resembles Nakobe Dean. And Nakobe Dean, who was in that 2019 recruiting cycle, who ended up going to Georgia over Alabama, was a really good player, fantastic player, now pursuing the NFL draft. Dick Butkus is saying Sean Murphy is Nakobe Dean-like. And Murphy won the 2021 Dick Butkus Award as the most outstanding linebacker coming from the high school ranks. So after not getting Dean, is Alabama getting in Murphy what it did not get in Dean, or what it missed out on in Dean? So if that be the case, this could be really, really good. And Sean Murphy, to me, is definitely one of those freshmen defensively to keep your eye on. Alabama is stacked defensively. Yes, they are. But every season, it just seems like there's a freshman that comes that infiltrates the roster, that shakes up the deck of cards a little bit, and becomes a starter or becomes a marquee contributor. We've seen it so many times under Coach Saban, whether that guy is a Minkah Fitzpatrick or whether that guy's a Patrick Surtain. Like, they come in here and they shake the dice game up. So is Sean Murphy, is he one of those guys? We will see it. We will see it this spring. But we go to a break right now, folks, on the show, and touch that down. When we get back, we tidy up loose ends and discussing the fourth quarter program. Coach Saban is trying to get this group back to being the physical, dominant unit based off of a post-game interaction he had with Kirby Smart after the Natty. We'll talk about the fourth quarter program after this.
If you're an avid Alabama Crimson Tide fan and you love to flaunt it, then show your Alabama Crimson Tide support by grabbing the All Bama sneakers. They feature bold Crimson Tide graphics, so no one will be able to question where your allegiance lies. When you add these sweet sneakers to your Alabama Crimson Tide collection, go to stsfootwear.com and use the code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. That's code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. Go to stsfootwear.com and get your All Bama sneakers today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month, or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
Hitting you again, folks, from the break. Number one form for Bama football news. In my own words, yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Appreciate you guys checking us out here on a Friday, making this your show, your network, your channel, your space to talk Crimson Tide. Before we get into the final topic of conversation, got to remind you of TDAwear.com. That's TDAwear.com. So fans, you're repping the Crimson Tide, right? I mean, you rock your gear, you rock your team, you rock your program. You are all about some Nick Saban and some Bama. Well, the same vigor you're giving Nick Saban and Bama, you got to give that same vigor to your brand that's putting out the nonstop Alabama football content. We got your clothes, we got your swag, we got your coach, we got you all things Crimson Tide right here. TDAwear.com. That's TDAwear.com. Do your shopping right there. Link in the description. Check us out and show that support for Coach Saban, the University of Alabama, for student athletes, and us here at Touchdown Alabama Magazine. But Alabama now, fourth quarter program has started. Fourth quarter program has kicked off, and this is the time of year where the coaching staff gets these players ready for not just the spring, but for the grinder that's going to be the summer, fall camp, and the upcoming football season. In the fourth quarter program, this is where the coaching staff puts these players to these rigorous tests, whether it's lifting, whether it's running, endurance drills, all these types of workouts that force you to bond and communicate and work together and forces you to persevere and go through to the end. And you're building that mindset where in the fourth quarter, nobody can stop me. In the fourth quarter, nobody can shut me down. In the fourth quarter, nobody can outwork me, right? Because the coaching staff and my teammates have pushed me through all of these different drills, obstacles, situations in this program. And I remember we had Tobias Brookins had called in, one of our good callers on Fresno. Tobias had called in, and he had talked about it's always a moment in the off season that prepares you for if Alabama can be something special, whether it's an interview with Coach Saban or a presser where Saban goes off on a reporter, or what happened in 2020 where Coach Saban was out in front marching with the players for social justice. There's always something, right, that has your attention, that has your focus, that lets you know this is going to be a moment where Bama's going to have a good football season or a championship football season in the fall. I'll add something to what Tobias said. I look at the fourth quarter program. There have been some iconic photos from the fourth quarter program. You looked at those photos and you thought, man, that guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be good. This is going to be a really good Bama team. Look at how they putting it on out there in the fourth quarter program. Case in point, remember the 2020 program where Mac Jones had a broken, bloody nose? Like his nose was just blooded up, and that picture surfaced all over social media. Folks was like, nah, Mac going to be the quarterback, bro. Mac Jones, you look at his nose, red it up more than Rudolph. That guy is going to be the quarterback. Look at the effort, the intensity, the toughness. Look at Mac Jones. I mean, nose covered in blood. That guy is going to be the starting quarterback. And you saw what happened. Starting quarterback set single-season records prior to Bryce Young, took the team to a national championship and won it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what may be the iconic photo in fourth quarter program this year. What happens in the fourth quarter program this time around that has U.S. fans thinking, okay, this team is a team that's going to get back to win the national championship? Because after the title game against Georgia, there was a post-game interaction between Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. And so according to reports out there, what happened was in the middle of the field, Nick Saban told Kirby Smart, man, y'all beat our butt in the fourth quarter. Didn't say the word butt, but it was like, y'all beat our butt in the fourth quarter. And normally the fourth quarter is Bama's quarter. The fourth quarter is Crimson Tide quarter. The fourth quarter is dominance quarter. The fourth quarter is the one where Alabama can physically impose its will. Rarely do you see the opposition oppose its will on Alabama in the fourth quarter. So hearing Coach Saban tell that to Kirby Smart in that post-Natty game interaction, that tells me that Alabama did not have the physical and mental mindset it needed a season ago. So this fourth quarter program, Saban is getting these guys back to that physical and mental mindset of this is Alabama, this is the fourth quarter program. We're going to be the team that nobody wants to face, nobody likes to face. People are terrified of facing. But normally that fourth quarter program kind of gives you that iconic view of what this team could be like, not only in the spring, but also in the summer and in the fall. So looking forward to seeing how these guys look here as they continue to go through the program. But as always, people, you want the best in news, notes, information, and coverage here on your Crimson Tide. You can get this by accessing the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app. You download the app from the iPhone App Store. If you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store if you got the Android phone. So for your audio needs, check us out. We got you right here. iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, Overcast.fm, or iHeartRadio. The good and gracious Lord sees fit, I'll be back on Monday to continue the conversation that is Tide football. Remember, Bama fans, you can purchase individual copies of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Have those sent to your door. That link will be found in the description. If you're trying to get the fresh edition, print edition of TDA the magazine, here's how you get that. You go to touchdownalabama.com. You click join, become a member, a subscriber today. That link in the description. If you're also trying to get the four-finger bling necklace, four-finger bling jewelry, courtesy of our guys at WeOwnTheFourthQuarter.com. That's WeOwnTheFourthQuarter.com. That link in the description as well. As always, appreciate my man Brad Edwards, formerly of ESPN, author of the book Dynasty by the Numbers, coming on the show today. Gotta appreciate my man John Ivor in the production studio doing his thing, and all of us in the Touchdown Alabama Magazine family. But until next time, folks, husbands, love your wives. Wives appreciate, value those husbands. Children, we're in the weekend. We're in the weekend right now, but still continue to do the right thing, fun thing, smart thing, good thing, legitimate thing, to not be bored. You get you those three hearty meals a day, those three great laughs a day. And as always, you protect yourself. You protect the loved ones around you. Enjoy NBA All-Star Weekend that's happening right now. And until next time, folks, I'm your man, Stephen M. Smith, and you've been listening to In My Own Words.